area, the belly button. This is the origin to connect with our ancestors. We want to ground that energy down before we expand it up. Grounding down, feeling the feet, feeling a downward flow of energy down the front body. Inhale up the back body. And exhale down the front body. So we're just going to start by focusing on that downward flow of energy, apana, and inhale that flow of energy. It's called udana. Goes up and it grows up to the sky. Exhale apana, it goes down to the earth. And adding with that udana, prana, the chi, expanding. And exhale the energy going down. Now you can start to add some arm movement to this. Inhale, the energy expanding out. As we breathe, the energy expands out. As we exhale, the energy grounds down. And I'm going to ask you just to add that downward movement of the palms just to help with the bhavana, the visualization, the felt and sensed intention. Inhale, expanding out, energy going up from the feet, up the back body, all the way to the top of the head. Exhale, down from the top of the head, down the front body, through the third eye, the throat, the heart, the power center, the pelvic region, pelvic floor, legs, and feet. Doing this in your own timing. This is like a moving body scan. And you can do this every day. This might be your morning practice, just this. It doesn't have to be much. So my commitment to myself, as much as possible, I tend to distract very easily by nature. Yoga saves me. But as much as I can, reining it in and doing at least 15 minutes a day. And then when I can do it, 30 minutes, 45 minutes, an hour, and sometimes I even practice for 2-3 hours. So it's all about getting started. And you can just add on one piece at a time. This is the first piece, just this. And making this a little bit more active, coming up onto the toes if possible. So inhale, coming up on the toes, and just noticing how that goes. And exhale, coming down. So sharing with some of you, I had a slight ankle injury yesterday. So I'm going to do this holding on to the wall today. So this will be a good, for some of you, you can keep in the center. I'm going to use the wall for a bit more support. My ankle's telling me that, so I'm going to be kind to myself. And if you're using a wall or a chair, you can also add the arms, of course, up. You can even do this movement. So one of my dance teachers, when I lived in Toronto, I was dancing at least a couple of hours a day, run to dance school at the end of my ESL teaching day. She would say to me when I got a bad ankle injury once and I was so disappointed, she said, every injury is an opportunity to learn and grow. So I have certainly found that to be the case. It's a new experience. And just whatever it is, you just take it in, you accept it rather than fight against it. You'll be much happier if you approach life in that easy way. If you like staying at the top, if you stay at the top, it feels too much. As you exhale, you can bring your heels down. Feel that lengthening of the spine. And inhale, coming up and perhaps lifting the chest or staying stable. And then maybe staying at the top. Feel free to keep it moving or stay at the top. I'm going to keep it moving myself. And release. Okay, so I thought today for lower back work, we're going to do Brahmana, but I also want to work on side bends, a lot of lateral bends. So we're going to start with the Tadasana lateral bends. Inhale, arms coming up, going on the toes if you like or not. And exhale, coming to the side, you can stay on the toes or you can come down at the end. The palms can stay together, or you can drop that lower arm and extend the top one or bend it and just feel the differences. You can stick the opposite hip out. That gets into the lower back. Inhale, coming up to the center. So we're going to bring the bhavana into the hips, lower back. Now, if you want to work more with your upper back, just focus your attention on the rib cage as you do this. So your choice, you can change the practice to your individual needs by changing your focus. So prana flows where your attention goes. This is a statement from the Hatha Yoga Pradipika, one of the central texts of yoga, of Hatha Yoga, which talks about the asana, the poses. It talks about pranayama, the breathing, and mentions meditation as well, but it's more about the earlier limbs of yoga. Now, if you feel warm enough after repeating 4 to 6 times, depending on the length of your breath, just doing this in your own time, you all know this practice. You've all practiced with me for a little bit. Most of you, that is. You can stay on one side and perhaps cross your foot over and stretch. You can just use that one arm, or you can use both. You can hold opposite elbows. You can have palms together. You can interlock the fingers, stretch them out to the sides, and stick that hip out. If it's too much, you can go in and out of it. If you're getting some feelings of, oh, I might get a back spasm, go in and out of it. So just listen to your body. You can use the wall, which is my personal preference. And just breathe here. And the breath does get a little shorter when you're ready coming out. Going to the other side. You can play with the crossing of the feet. So I usually put the same foot behind as the arm that's on top. Some people like the opposite, so you can play with that. And sticking that hip out, so your left hip, if you're coming to the right. Aligning those shoulders. And again, you can go move in and out of it if you're not comfortable. This one's also great for those of you with scoliosis. There's at least two of you in the room with scoliosis. When you're ready, coming out, inhale up, exhale, release. And just as a counter pose, we're going to do 4 bend. We're going to do this with crossed legs. This is getting into the hips and lower back. And so starting with the left foot behind, inhale, arms coming up to the sides. And exhale, forward fold. Pelvic floor, lower belly, belly button in, chest falls. Inhale, coming up. Now, if this is too much because of heart problems or lower back problems, you can just come halfway down with your hands on your thighs or your shins, or you can bring your hands to a chair or a couch and just don't come down as far. Just honor your body where it's at today. Inhale, coming up. And again, part of the practice is that acceptance. What's going on today? And just allowing it to come in, whatever it is. Don't push it away. That pushing away in yoga, we talked about last week, dvesha klesha, pushing away. And it's just as destructive as raga klesha when you try to pull something in that is not happening. So loving what is. That's probably the most important quality to cultivate when we're cultivating happiness, wellness, wholeness, balance, harmony. Until we get there, lots of compassion. Exhale, center. Compassion for ourselves, compassion for others, because we're not usually in that state. Most of us experience lots of suffering. When we're going to go to the other side, crossing the legs, inhale, arms coming up, feeling that radiance of the sun all around you. Exhale, feeling that waterfall down, Panavayu, that grounding energy, connecting to pulling the belly button in towards the spine, that power center. Inhale, coming up. We're working with the 3 lower chakras today, the pelvic floor, the lower belly, and the belly button. Those 3 centers, Muladhara, Swadhisthana, and Manipuraka. It's 3 lower chakras, wheels of energy. We're zipping them up. You can think of that zip starting with your feet, pulling in into the center, and then allowing the chest and the head to fall. After you've done a round 6, just finishing up, finding your samastiti. Notice how your hips feel, maybe a little bit more balanced. Just going to do a land acknowledgement with Utkatasana, Ardha Utkatasana. So inhale, arms at the side, feeling that expansive, that Brahmana energy, that which expands, air expands, water expands, we expand. And then exhale, contracting towards your center, pulling in from the pelvic floor all the way up to the belly button. Inhale, if you like, bringing in a visualization of a tree, its branches expanding, the leaves starting to grow this spring. And then exhale, can you draw your attention into the trunk, all the way down into the roots, into the earth. Inhale, expanding up and out through the branches, the leaves, and the sun that feeds those leaves. And exhale, rooting down, perhaps even connecting, if you're on the West Coast, to that water in the sky, coming down into the tree, into the roots, into the earth, nourishing through the earth and the water elements. Inhale, expanding out, feeling the branches, the leaves, the sun, the wind. And we have another element called ether or akasha, space. And exhale, grounding down, honoring the land, honoring the water, honoring our ancestral roots. When you're ready, finding your sama-stiti, even standing pose, right in the center. And that pose we just did, Ardha Utkatasana, physically also great for finding harmony or balance in the hips and the lower back. All right, so before we go into our side bends, we're going to do some warriors and go into that Brahmana or that expansive energy, always balancing it with the rooting energy, the Apana. Bringing your left foot forward in one step and turning the back foot out to comfort, just depending on your day, how long it is and how wide it is, so you can adjust those. We're going to do the version where we have some traction of the spine. So inhale, you're going to bend that front knee and you're going to bring your arms in front, which actually is working a lot of core strength and a lot of back strength, coming straight up and maybe interlocking the fingers and straightening, lengthening, and exhale, release. Now, if this is too much for your back because of the weight of the arms, you can try opposite arm to front leg, and that might feel better. And you can focus on one side of the spine at a time that way. So I know for those of you with lower back issues, you know, some of you it's right side, some of you it's left. So you can play with the weight of the arms to focus both the attention of the movement of the prana, but also physically work on lengthening one side at a time. So I'm going to do that version today just for fun, to draw my attention just to the right side of my spine. So when I work with people privately and they have a lower back problem, say it's on the right, I would give them this, usually. Very simple pose, very effective. If it's comfortable staying in the pose, inhale, lengthen like someone's pulling your fingers. And then exhale, just for the upper back, we're going to drop that shoulder down and have the palm facing in. So just to draw the upper back, neck and shoulders into it a little bit. Inhale, lengthen. And exhale, bend. Now you can turn your head as you exhale if you like to add a bit more neck there. I know that's another big sub theme for many of us is neck and shoulders. Inhale, lengthen. Exhale, bend. This one I learned from Gary Craftso many years ago in Maui. I spent a month with he and his former wife, Mirka. This is in his book, Yoga for Wellness, wonderful book in our tradition. And release. So hopefully that felt juicy. It's also really working the legs and feet, of course, coming back, finding your samastiti, bringing your right foot forward and your left foot turned out. Just finding your stance, find your feet, find your legs and feet first, your hips, all those pieces. And then when you When you're ready, inhale, you can use both arms as we talked about earlier. Exhale, release. Or you can use one arm. You want to make it harder still, you can interlock those fingers if you use both arms. So I'm focusing now on just the left side of my body. So the arm is the same, the opposite of the front leg, same as my back foot. It's working the left side of the lower back. You can do a slight hold after inhale where you try to feel like someone's stretching your fingers away from you, lengthening, stretching, 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 and you'll get some traction in the whole side of the body from the upper back to the hip and lower back and right through to the leg and heel. So very nice variation. Kind of feels like almost it should be an exhale movement, and it could be in another variation, but this one, my teachers do teach it on inhale, so I kind of have just decided that I'll do it that way because that's how they do it, and probably it's more about the lengthening, right? The expansion of the energy. It's more energetic than physical, the rationale for that. Doing this 6 to 8 times or less, and then staying in the pose if that's comfortable. If it's not, you can keep inhaling and exhaling up and down. Otherwise, inhale, lengthen, exhale, bend the elbow, palm towards you, and maybe turn the head away to the opposite shoulder. Inhale, lengthen. So now I've got the palm facing in. It's a little bit different. I'm feeling the heat come to my body. I don't know about you. Exhale. If your knee is bothering you, you could always straighten the leg if it's just too much on the knee. For some knees, that staying is just going to be too much weight. So honor that in your body if that's what's going on. Doing this 4 to 8 times, depending on the length of your breath. And release. Inhale, exhale, stepping back, finding your samastiti. And notice how you feel. And let's just find those hips again in our Utkatasana. So this time, the Utkatasana, perhaps you can go down a little further. So you can just go halfway down if you like, or some of you might be able to go all the way down. Some of you, like me, with short Achilles tendons, you'll need to stand on a block. So depends on the length of your calves and your tendons. Otherwise, if you know you can squat all the way down, you may. The other variation you can do is you can turn your feet out. That's a modification, and that might allow you to go all the way to the ground. This one is really great for working on the lower back. It creates some traction in the lower back. This was my very first yoga therapy pose that I discovered in my 20s, doing my master's when I had lower back pain all the time. Inhale, coming up. And I used to hold hands with friends in my school in Vermont and do squats. And I just noticed how it relieved my back. So much tension. Physically and physiologically, it's also really working with that apana vayu, that downward flow of energy, compressing the gut, working that GI tract. Very good. If you suffer from constipation, this is a great pose to bring into your practice if you can. Anxiety, it's an anti-anxiety pose. Utkatasana. Now, classically, you leave your arms up the whole time. I bring them down because I find it gives more traction of the spine. So you can play with that. So the classical is you leave your arms up even as you go down. It's just a bit of a different feel. It's definitely harder. Physically, I like it with the arms down. When you're ready, staying down, this is what I call a heated langana. It's reducing stuff, but it's doing it through the door of heat. Staying here if you can. I'm noticing this is actually quite a bit of work on the ankles too. Inhale, arms coming up. Exhale, arms coming down. And when they come down, you can press them forward and stretch the whole spine, draw the belly in. Inhale, arms up. Exhale, arms down. Stretch the whole spine. Inhale, arms up. Exhale, arms down. Stretching the whole spine. And when you're ready, just come up lazily, or come up through the whole pose if you want. Just go into a forward bend if that works for you. Again, if you know you have one leg longer than the other, you can bring that foot back and you'll feel your hips even out. This is very good for the lower back to create that evenness. If there is an unevenness in your pelvis, which most of us have, one side is different than the other. So really encourage you at times in your practice to honor that. And I'll keep telling you how to do that. Inhale, coming up. It took me about 20 years to figure that piece out. So these things take time sometimes, and hopefully I can share those insights with you from my practice. Just noticing how you feel. Probably you're feeling quite a bit of that downward flow of energy right now, having done Utkatasana. I feel it as a feeling from my tailbone down the backs of my legs into my feet. You might feel it a different way. Might feel a sense of your feet being heavy. If you've ever done downhill skiing, it's kind of that feeling after doing downhill skiing all day, which is basically being in Ardha Utkatasana for many hours. All right, we're going to go into those side bends now. I think we are ripe and ready for that movement of the spine. So just as a warm up, let's just do Utthita Trikonasana. So the feet apart, creating an equilateral triangle. So about the length of one of your legs apart, but you can do less or more. And I'm going to do the variation for the hips, turning that left foot out. So pivoting on the heel if you can. And then the other foot is square, or you can angle it in if that feels better for your hips. I do it that way. It feels better for my knee to do it that way. The other consideration is this knee. For many years, I had to bend that knee slightly to get it to stay stable. So when you straighten it, if your kneecap, if it wobbles around, probably you should bend it a little bit. So just paying attention to those details for your body. Inhale, arms coming up. We don't want to injure ourselves through our practice. We want to feel better. And yoga therapy is all about function over form. Exhale, coming down, finding your place. I'm going to add that little knee bend today. And your head could go up if you have that range of motion. Be careful. And your head could go down if you have less range of motion or that feels good on your neck. Inhale, coming up. And exhale as if you're going along a wall, coming down and finding all those triangles in your body. Inhale, coming up. And triangle is a beautiful symbol of the one and the many brought together in harmony. So uniting the opposites. And the yoga talks about uniting the opposites through letting go of unnecessary tension whenever possible, using your energy efficiently as a result by cultivating that softness, In such a state of body and mind as a continuum, we fall into ananta, harmony, the harmony of the opposites. Chapter 247 in the Yoga Sutras. Maybe staying in the pose now, or you can keep repeating it, just see what feels best. You can add some arm movement if you like. So for the lower back, you might extend that top arm, for example, and get right into that hip, side body. A lot of core work. Be careful, you might want to bend the knee also. And if you've got neck, shoulder stuff, you can play with this kind of movement. And when you're ready, you can come up. Except coming to the center. If any of those stay poses are too much, just keep the dynamic part going and play with variations. Remove the arms, move the arms. So remove the arms, just go into the torso, move the arms, bend the knees, use props to prop yourself up from the floor. So those are all the ways we can modify. We could also sit in a chair, of course, with a disability. Coming to the other side, inhale, arms coming to the center. And we're all differently abled in many ways, so that's even a continuum. Exhale, coming to your other side, finding those triangles, the one and the many being linked in ananta harmony, infinite harmony. Exhale down towards the earth. Inhale up towards the sky. So inhale is that prana vayu, udana vayu, the up movement, the expansive movement. And exhale, apana vayu, the grounding movement. These are words used in the ancient Vedas from India, over 4,000 years old, likely. At least 2,000, but well, at least 3,000. We have record of that. I had to do a little calculation there, but we think older because it was not a written down body of knowledge for a long time, pre-literate. So many of the Vedas talk about the vayus, the 5 movements of energy, subtle energy. When you're ready, perhaps staying in the pose, you can just stay here, or you can add some arm movement, or you can go up and down. Yes, that top arm can come down. Some of you are doing that. Wonderful. That's great for the shoulder, especially if that shoulder's higher than the other one. That's a wonderful one. You can even have it down your hip. Play with that. If you want to lengthen, get more into the hip, you can play with that. And then you can add movement here, of course, for the upper back, neck, and shoulders, or just to make it a bit more dynamic. For this, exhale, inhale. You can always bend that knee. When you're ready, coming up, you can do this without arms if the weight of the arms is too much on the back. Exhale, release. Hopefully you're feeling a bit warm. If you need to take a forward bend, go for it. We're going to keep going to the next lateral bend, but if you need to take a break, feel free to do a forward bend first. So bringing the feet even wider, Prasarita Pada Uttanasana, that kind of width, and then if you can from the heel, I find this quite hard when the distance increases, move from the heel. So I got corrected on that this trip to India, and it's like, oh, trying to bring that in, but it's a bit challenging. So bending the knee, just finding that warrior two position as the foundation of the pose in the legs. Inhale, arms up. Exhale, bend the knee. So just finding that warrior two. And if you want, looking along that middle finger. Now we're going to add on a movement here. Inhale, stretching the side. Exhale, bending. This is one I learned in the West, which I really like. They call it the dancing warrior. So we're just going to start with that. Warrior two. Inhale. That's more upper back. Exhale, some more legs and feet. And then we're going to take it into the lower back in a sec. You're doing this 4 to 6 times, depending on the length of your breath. Release the arms. Just be mindful of that back foot. It can be square, or if it's hurting your knee, you can turn the foot in. Inhale, arms coming up, and it's heel to heel alignment or heel to arch or even wider. Exhale, coming to the side. We're just going to start on top of the thigh. The other hand is to the sky. And then inhale, lengthen the arm. And you could be looking up, straight or down. Exhale, hand to the sky. Inhale, coming through your warrior two and up to standing. You could do that in 2 breaths if you want it. Exhale, release. Just combining it. Inhale, arms up. Exhale, bend, come down. Inhale, lengthen. Exhale, hand coming up. You could look down. You could bring that top arm back and open the hip. Inhale through your warrior two and coming up. Exhale, taking a break. Inhale, we're going to do this 4 times. Our 3rd time. Exhale. Inhale, lengthen. Exhale, down to the sky. Inhale, coming up. Perhaps you're going down a little more each time. Exhale, starting position. 4th time, we're going to stay. Inhale, you can keep it going if you want. Exhale, bend and find your Parshva Konasana. Now that hand can go behind. Some people say that that is classical. I would need a block to do that successfully myself. You can have your arm in front. Again, you can use a block or no block. And then that top arm is extending. Now this is pretty intense for most people. I like to be in front. I get a better opening of my pelvis. If you want to add on some arm movement, take the stress out of it a bit and add some movement. Inhale, lengthen, exhale, bend. And this adds an upper back piece. Otherwise, keep it going up and down. Just do the first part, the dynamic movement up and down of the pose. I've got a wall here that my fingertips are going to, which is quite nice. And last time, having stayed 4 to 6 breaths. Exhale, hand to the sky. Inhale, coming up. Exhale, feet center. And going to the other side. I'm just going to have my block there. Prepare for the other side. You could have chairs on both sides. Sometimes with pregnancy, this pose, they have a chair on each side. Got some just discomfort in the lower back. That's another way to work with this, a stool or a chair on each side. Inhale, arms coming up. Exhale, starting with your warrior two, just finding that. Virabhadrasana is often called warrior two in the West, 2nd variation. And inhale, straightening the knee and bringing that arm up. Exhale, warrior two. This is just a warm up for the leg and the back. Inhale. So lateral movements really important for the lower back, evening out imbalances in the lower back. as well as the upper back. Of course, we're adding an upper back piece here. A lot of you have upper back issues. Just adding that for you. Maybe that stance gets a little stronger. This is definitely working legs and feet. You have that foundation. And we're going to go into the full pose. So exhale, Parshvakonasana. The setup is hand to the sky. This is in Krishnamacharya's later work. He added this piece rather than going straight into it. Inhale, lengthen the arms. So I know it's a little unusual for other traditions, but anyway, there's a nice logic with it. Exhale, hand to the sky. Inhale, coming up through your warrior two, and release. Inhale, arms up. Exhale, bend. Come to your side angle pose. Inhale, extend that angle. Feel the stretch through that left hip. Exhale, hand to the sky. Inhale, coming up. The head movement, if you are able, you can add that. Exhale, it's probably warming you up quite a bit. Inhale, lengthen. Exhale, hand to the sky. So you could be looking up during all of that part. Inhale, coming up. And our fourth time, I think this is our fourth exhale, coming into it. Now you might now take it a little bit deeper into the hip. You could use a block in front on, the high end or the low, extending that arm along the ear when you're ready, or to the outside of the leg if that feels better on your hip and lower back. My focus is more this left side of your back. That's what I'm focusing on. In terms of yoga therapy, I'm opening that right hip. And you can add a dynamic movement. Exhale, bend. Inhale, lengthen. You can keep going up and down in the pose if it works better for you. When you're ready, coming out of it. That was at least 4 breaths. And exhale, release. Let's bring our feet in for a moment just to rest those ankles, because that pose, even when you don't have an ankle injury, is pretty intense for the ankles. Going to take a bit of a break there. All right. Okay, so if you're up to it, I hope you are. If you're not, you could do this with your feet parallel. But if you're up to it, bringing a wide stance again, we're going to do our counter. Prasarita Pada Uttanasana. We're going to do it with some twists, which is really wonderful for the hips and therefore the lower back. So sometimes I teach this during the hip classes. Inhale, arms coming up, front or sides. If front doesn't work for you, exhale, twist to your left and come down. Now your leg can be straight. I'm going to bend it so that I'm stretching into the groin and weighting into that hip that I'm going towards. Inhale, coming up, moving the arms first in line with the ears, untwist. Exhale, start to twist to the other side. Your leg can be straight or you can bend it to make your hip work more one side at a time. And the opposite lower back is getting a stretch. You might be able to feel that as well. And then the third one is to the center. Exhale, center. Again, you can bend the knees to get more into the groin and lower back, or the legs can be straight. That's more hamstrings and probably calves. Inhale, coming up. Exhale, starting position. That's one round. So I'm going to take this pause in between just to make it clear what the rounds are, so it can get a bit confusing. So inhale, center. Chin in, perhaps. Exhale, turning to your left, coming down. Inhale, moving your arms in line with the ears, coming up center. Exhale, moving to the other side. Inhale, coming up. Exhale, center. Inhale, coming up. Exhale, starting position. Feel that energy flowing down from the skies to the earth. Inhale, energy up. Exhale, twisting left. Inhale, up. Exhale, right. Inhale, up. Exhale, center. Inhale, up. Exhale, starting position. You can always turn your feet out as modification if your ankles are hurting. Inhale, arms up. Exhale, left. This can be our last time. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale, center. Now stay here. Prasarita Pada Uttanasana. Classically, your hands are in the center, and you could have a block or something that you bring your head to if you want to experience the top of your head on the mat. Some of you will be able to do it without a block, of course. If you want to add movement, you can inhale, look up, and exhale, root down. You can also bend the knees. That's going to get more into the hips and the lower back. So play with that. I'm going to choose that variation to work more with the hips and lower back. It also gets into the legs a lot when you do that inhale movement, exhale forward. And then you might not need a block. Your hands can be in different places. They could be in front of you, for example, if that feels better on your body. Maybe staying in the pose, holding the big toes. When you're ready, coming up, you decide when you're ready. You might stay a bit longer. You can always come out of the pose earlier. As soon as your body tells you, just come out and find your samastiti. Just honoring where you are now. You should be feeling those legs and feet a lot. You should be feeling your hips. You're probably starting to feel your lower back having worked as well. And it is time to make it to the floor. So you might add a layer on to your body if you got warm during that. So we're going to just do a classical kind of vinyasa down to the floor. If you have knee problems, you might skip this and just take yourself right to child's pose or knees to chest on your back. You might skip this piece if you've got some knee problems. We're going to be doing some lunges. So just beware that this might not be appropriate. I'm facing east if possible. It's always nice in my little yoga room. I mean, this part of my house is south, but I try to face east quite a bit in my practice. So inhale, arms coming up. This is just the classical direction for a morning practice, for sure. And exhale, coming down. Now, your arms can be straight in front, or I like to bring them in. This is a modification I've created based on one picture I found of Krishnamacharya doing something like this, and the bhavana of it, I think, is very beautiful. And then when you're ready, bring your left foot back in your lunge and inhale, bringing your arms up, and that knee is coming towards the toes. So I've got quite a short lunge here. Exhale, stepping forward. Inhale, coming up, arms first in line with the ears if you can. It will crash there into the wall, so be careful of that. Exhale, starting position. I'm just going to move my mat back a little bit. Inhale, arms coming up. Exhale, forward bend. Maybe bring your hands in and namaste, honoring that sun, the eastern sun. Inhale your right foot back into a lunge. Exhale, release that knee down. Forgot to say that on the last one. Inhale, arms coming up. This is also wonderful for the hips and the lower back if your knees can take it. Exhale, forward bend. Inhale, coming up. Exhale, hands at the heart. This is too much, this whole vinyasa. You could just do some lunge movement back and forth rather than the up and down. If that piece is too much, you can just lunge forward and back and have some props that under your knees and that kind of thing as a modification. I think you guys are all okay. Just checking in. Inhale, arms coming up at the sides or straight up, radiating like the sun. Arms at the side, radiating out of the heart center. Exhale, forward fold, top of the head, third eye, throat, heart, power center, hip center, pelvic floor, legs, feet. Inhale, left leg back, arms up. So you can do that in one breath if you want. Exhale, forward bend, stepping it up a notch. Inhale, coming up. Exhale, heart center. Samastiti. Inhale, arms side, radiating like the sun. Exhale, that waterfall down, grounding to the earth. Inhale, right leg back and arms up right away if you can. This time we're going to go back. You can go into child's pose, or if you're able, a downward facing dog, or you could just hang out and work with your hips again if you prefer. So your choice. This pose is not for everyone because it involves a lot of, especially the wrists and the calves. It is wonderful for the lower back if you can do it. It's also wonderful for immunity, respiration. Inhale, coming up on the toes. Exhale, one heel down. Inhale, up in those toes. Exhale, the other heel down. You can keep that going, or you can just stay on one side. I like to do this and loop one foot behind the other and hang out there. Switching sides. We're ready from here. Coming to Chakravakasana, up cat or upward facing dog if this is in your practice. Release those toes or stay up on the toes. It's quite different. Very different effect on the lower back. This is definitely more active with the toes tucked under. Exhale, coming back into your child's pose. Again, if this doesn't work for you, you can go onto your back, You can angle your cameras down so I can see you. That would be great. Thank you. Based on what I'm seeing, I think you're all okay to be on your knees. As far as I can see, I think you are all okay. I'm hoping you're all okay. Okay, because we're going to do a vinyasa that involves being on the knees. Now, if your knees are bothering you, you can put a blanket, a folded blanket under your knees to help with this. You can take your mat and fold it in half or use another mat. So just adjust to your knees because we're going to be on them for a little bit based on what I'm seeing. I hope this is appropriate. Thinking about each of you, I think we'll be okay. Okay, so from here, you're from child's pose. Just going to start, and you're going to come to your left, and some of you might need a block, and coming to your left and bringing the other leg out. Again, you could use a block to add a bit more height. So you're in this position. It's a variation of Vasishthasana. And then we're going to extend that arm long, and this is going to get into the upper and lower back and hip and even your leg. So that's your inhale movement. As you exhale, you're going to come forward. Now you might just come to here if your knee doesn't like to come back, or if you can, bring your buttocks to your ankle. So you do not have to do that last piece if that's too much. Inhale, lengthen. And tuck your hips under. It's been a while since we've done this one. Exhale, release. I created this about 20 years ago for the lower back. And I used to have lower back pain. Very rare I have it anymore, but I had a period, I had it for about 10 years and I had to really figure out a lot of stuff with it. Exhale, release. And inhale. And I'll just share, it wasn't just physical stuff. A lot of it had to do with personal power and owning my personal power, which is still something I personally have to work on a lot. And I know I'm not alone. Inhale, coming up. Now you can keep that going or stay now in the position. It's like what we did with Parshvakonasana, that deep side angle pose we did. As you exhale, you can bend the elbow, turn the head. This comes neck and shoulders as well. Inhale, lengthen, maybe even looking up to the sky. Be careful. Might be too much on the neck. Exhale, release. You can do other variations with the arms as well. There's lots more that you know from me. Hopefully this feels really good. And when you're ready, coming down. We're going to go to the other side. Okay, so the other side, I'm just setting up. And I sometimes set up in a vinyasa, but I'm just going to get you into the pose. Sometimes just more practical to find the foundation. And again, you know, just if you want a bit more height, it can be nice to have a block or a book. My teachers don't have blocks, they use books. So you can use a big book as well and try to get those hips coming forward. So if you've got one hip that's different than the other, you might need a bigger block on one side than the other. So just finding the beginning of the pose and then maybe extend the arm long, inhale here, and try not to bend it like that. Have it nice and long and an extension. That's right, an extension of the hip. Beautiful, good job. Exhale, coming forward. You don't have to come back. So you could just come to here. This would be easier. Or if you can, coming all the way back, and that will stretch your quad as well. Inhale, coming up, tuck the tail under, press the hips forward, and then you'll feel stretch in that left lower back, hopefully. Exhale forward. Just keep this going 4 to 6 times, depending on the length of your breath. Got a little ledge here, which is quite nice to bring your hand to. So if you've got a wall around, you can bring your hand to the wall. It's a nice variation. When you're ready to stay in the pose, as you exhale, bend the elbow, turn the head. You can look down as well rather than up. So you can look down, inhale, head center or up. Exhale, bend the elbow, look center or down. And that's really nice for most people's neck and shoulders. Draw the belly in. Inhale, lengthen. Exhale, bend. Doing this 4 to 6 times. When you've had enough, go into your child's pose and rest. Some of you are already there. That's great. And coming to child's pose if you're not there. This pose is not for everyone because of the knees. You're welcome to be on your back. Look at where you all are. And you can always bring the knees apart and get more into that groin and hips. You can always stuff some stuff under your belly for your lower back. So I just use this block, but you can use a blanket or a pillow and prop the belly so that the lower back the belly presses the lower back towards the sky. And that can feel much better on the lower back. So you can play with that. So when you're ready, coming to the floor. Start with bent knees. Inhale, arms up. Exhale, hands down, and we're just going to gradually roll down if this is in your practice, tucking the pelvic floor, the lower belly, the belly button, and you're rounding the spine as you come down slowly, if you can. We haven't done this in a while. All right, so a little bit of core work there, because we all know that lower backs are definitely linked. Lower back care is definitely linked to core strength. All right, so we've arrived. Here we are. Suptasana, just lying here in your supine samastiti, just finding that. I like to put my feet at the wall so I can emulate the floor under my feet again for grounding. It's not classical modification. And just notice how you feel. If your lower back doesn't like being in this position, it's likely that standing for a long time aggravates your lower back. If sitting feels better for you, probably bending the knees in this position will also feel better for you. So lower backs usually like either back arches or forward bends, often forward bends. Usually we have to ease our way into the back arches for most people. So just notice how that is. You can have your legs bent or straight. And then we're going to do Tadaka Mudra. Inhale, arms coming up. Do this again with bent knees if you like. Exhale, arms coming down. If your legs are bent, you could put a block between your thighs, as we've been working on, to ground through the pelvic floor, the pelvis, the legs, and the feet. Inhale, I'm going to go a bit more classical in what I'm showing. Arms coming up. Now those arms overhead, if this is too much, you can bend the elbows, do something like that. Exhale, release. You could have a bolster or a pillow behind you that you bring your arms to. Inhale up, exhale down, or if you're ready, staying in the full pose. And if you're feeling comfortable, you can have the palms together or interlock the fingers, palms facing away from the top of the head. Exhale, pelvic floor, lower belly, belly button in. Engage the whole Mula Bandha, and then maybe even Uddiyana Bandha, the stomach lock, drawing in and up, everything in and up towards the heart. Release the lock, and then inhale into the chest if you can, and then the belly and the chin lock, Jalandhara Bandha. Re-engage that at the top of the inhale. Classically, it's at the bottom of the exhale. That's hard for most people. Exhale, pelvic floor, lower belly, belly button in. And again, you could draw the stomach up, Uddiyana Bandha, and you could lock the chin, Jalandhara Bandha. Hold after exhale. Keep this going now. That hold after exhale can be a second or two. It can be half the length of your exhale or even the same length. So just play with that for your body, your practice, your prana. Just helping us connect to the earth, but also to that power center at the belly button. It's also the center of the first nourishment between you and your mother and your ancestors through the umbilical cord, both physically and energetically. Connecting to the ancestral line through the nabi, the dantian, the belly button. The bhavana you can bring in is rooting that umbilical cord down into the earth from the belly button. So you can play with that to just connect to your ancestral roots, if that speaks to you. When you're ready, release. The preparation also for pranayama, or our breath work. So we're going to do a side bend from here. And I'm going to do a variation that's from Iyengar yoga, which I very much like. Gets the lower and upper back. You're going to walk the feet towards your right, and stretching that left side. And place the right foot over the left. Bring the shoulders towards the right. And then the arms can just be here, or if you like, holding opposite elbows, or straightening the arms, palms together, or interlock the hands, or hold the top wrist, hold that left wrist. You should be very warmed up for this, and just stay here and breathe. This is often done as a restorative pose. We're doing it a bit more actively to get into the upper and lower back and hip, and even into the leg, the IT band, this whole left side being stretched. Focus on long exhale. Jatra Parvati, Parshva variation. It's working with the Jatra Agni, the fire at the belly, and that Nabi point. This is the center of the Agni, the fire. And then when you live in a colder place, that fire tends to get a bit damp. So it's really good to rev it up. You want to rev it up further, you can add a hold after inhale. If you have a tendency more towards diarrhea, please do not do that. And just have even breath. But if you tend towards constipation or just you feel your will is not strong right now, or there's a little bit of depression or sadness, dampness in your system, that hold after inhale can be very helpful. Also, we're used for indigestion to rev the fire. That hold can be a couple of seconds or half the length or same length as your inhale. This is more of a bit more of a Brahmana approach, even though we're in a twist. It's working physically and energetically here, tying everything together. So repeat pose. When you're ready, switching sides if you haven't already, just finding the center, that Suptasana in the center. It's very similar. It's like a mirror of what we did lying down. If you have scoliosis, I encourage you to look at your feet, make sure they're in the center, and hold the edges of your mat. That will just help you figure out your alignment. When you're ready, going to the other side, hopefully you have room in your space. You might need to adjust, walking your feet in little steps towards your left. And to keep that right hip down, placing the left foot over the right if that works. Otherwise, you don't have to do that. You can always bend one knee as well if that feels better for your back. I forgot to mention that variation. Stretching that right hip, lower back. Now bring your shoulders also over to the left. Can you go a little deeper now? Deeper still, bringing your arms into it, holding opposite elbows, perhaps holding that top wrist, perhaps palms together. Just play with the arms. In this position, just breathe evenly. Inhale, exhale. Try to keep that right hip down. And when you're ready, perhaps adding a hold after inhale if that works in your body to rev the fire in the belly. You can visualize that campfire in the belly glowing brightly as you inhale, and holding after inhale, it expands. Hold after inhale, half the length of the inhale if you can, or same length. And a couple more breaths before you come out, or you come out sooner. You're ready, coming out. If you haven't already, releasing the legs, releasing the arms, coming out perhaps on an inhale, and just coming out. Counter pose. Just going to keep this really easy, knees to chest, Upanasana. And if you want to get a bit more curve into the lower back, if you have lordosis sway back, do recommend using a block or pillow under the buttocks with the top edge no higher than the waist, and bringing your knees into your chest. In this position, you can use your hands for support, or you can use the core a bit more by going hands-free. Inhale, knees away. Exhale, pelvic floor, lower belly, belly button in, chest falls. Squeeze and hold after exhale, perhaps adding the hands. Pull up from the pelvic floor, hold. 1, 2, inhale, knees away. Exhale, knees towards you. Hold after exhale. 1, 2, inhale, knees away. Exhale, knees towards you. Hold. 1, 2. Keep this going. You can add on to that hold. It can be the same length as your exhale, half the length as I've been showing. Just working that Upanasana. And maybe when you're ready, staying in the pose, hugging the knees. You can fold opposite elbows or just hold, interlock your hands. Keep adding that hold after exhale. Knees will move away a little bit as you inhale, so the stomach expands. Apanasana, working the apana vayu, that grounded energy. And when you're ready, release. Move into your Shavasana, relaxation. For your lower back, you might want to have a block or two underneath your thighs, or a pillow or a bolster to create a bit less of a lordosis, or the back moving away from the floor. Some of my students like to have a block under the buttocks to open the hips, and that can feel good for them. So some of you might want to try that. One of my students taught me that a number of years ago, one of my yoga therapists in training. So that can feel really good for some people. Give length in those hips. Set aside your medicine and just rest here. As you rest, I'm just going to chant for you. day. May our lives be nourished. Pranam day. May our prana be nourished. Apanam day. May our pana be nourished. Ayo day. Om Pranam day. Om Apanam day. Om Ayo day. Pranam day. Apanam day. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om. Namaste. Namaskaram. Thank you very much.